Let's get into our first topic, though. Should cannabis be decriminalised? The Mayor of London's Drug Commission has found current laws are damaging police relations with ethnic communities. Maybe they've got a point. Last year, black people were 3 times more likely to be given a drug-related search than white people. In response, Sadiq Khan is calling for the possession of small amounts of cannabis to no longer be a criminal offence. Police would not be allowed to stop and search people solely on the suspicion of cannabis possession. However, dealing or producing it would still be illegal. The Home Office says it has no intention of decriminalising cannabis. Should it be decriminalised, Albie? Is this what we do now, is when it causes friction between police and a particular community, we just push that law to one side?
I think it should be legalised and regulated. I don't think the argument that Sadiq Khan is making in this commission is the right one to be making. I don't think we shouldn't be making laws based on the fact that it impacts one ethnicity over another ethnicity. We're all equal under the law. I think that's the wrong argument. The argument that needs to be made is that actually 34% of adults between the age of 16 and 59 use cannabis at least once a month in the last year. It is effective. And how many of them have gone to prison? I would probably wager very few of them. So it's effectively already decriminalised. So all this would be doing is changing what is a casual rule into a more formal rule. But imagine all of the tax revenue that could be made from a legal cannabis industry. We know from experts on this, from drug experts, that in fact cannabis is less harmful from alcohol, and people drink alcohol all the time. In fact, I saw a clip on Jeremy's show of someone with a beer at breakfast. You know, if that is the sort of thing that is normalised in society, why is it that we're so upset about a herb?
Isn't that whataboutism, though? Because we know the damage that alcohol does. We can't, therefore, disregard the damage that we know cannabis can do.
But the damage is
schizophrenia, paranoia. These are real.
The damage is less than alcohol. That is a fact. It is a less damaging substance than alcohol, and yet alcohol is completely and utterly normalised to a point where we're going to have a pint of beer on a breakfast show.
OK. Normalisation is a really interesting point. It feels to me whenever I go, even to a large town, Stella, but certainly in cities, I smell weed pretty much wherever I go. It feels like it is much more accepted anyway. So why not just go the whole hog and say decriminalise, stop this friction, stop these problems?
I disagree with Albie that alcohol is normalised. I think that if anything, alcohol over the last few years, people are becoming more and more sceptical because people are becoming more and more health conscious. And this is why we see arguments being made about more taxes on alcohol. The price, we have tried to increase the price. We try to put in measures to make people drink less alcohol. And we see more and more young people going completely teetotal, or at least for a few months every year, abstaining completely from alcohol. So I disagree that alcohol that we should treat other substances like alcohol, because the difference is that now we know we have a lot more data in our hands. We know that the impact that such substances have on the human body. And for me, the problem with cannabis, with decriminalising cannabis, even though I'm in favour of finding ways to have less people, especially young people, come in contact with the criminal justice system, and I 100% agree that there is hypocrisy in the system, as you say, Albie, when we know, for example, that cannabis is less toxic than alcohol, and most people don't go to prison, so often the ones who will be criminalized are the ones who come from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds. But the problem is that for a lot of people, there will be people who will still be more vulnerable to the bad effects of cannabis. And these people will see their lives being disruptive, and they could have psychotic episodes, for example, which could have long-lasting impacts both on their health and in their lives. And this kind of inequality can then be entrenched. And the reason why I'm scared of decriminalising and regulating, as you say, is because I don't think that the black market of cannabis is going to go away if we decriminalise and regulate cannabis.
I mean, that's the argument is that it's taken out of the hands of criminals and then it's regulated. So the quality, the strength, all of those things are things which are better understood and not just at the whims of criminal gangs. You could say the same thing about vapes, right? But what is happening with vapes? You have the normal vapes being sold in shops, so the average adult or middle-class person is going to go and buy a vape from a shop.
from a regulated legal shop. But a lot of kids, a lot of young people, especially from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, they will go and they will buy illegal vapes, which have toxic levels of
Just
all
have
of these
2
substances.
tiers then, the
Exactly.
criminal
So
and
is
the-
your
I-
argument then, Stella, that anything that could be sold on a black market should just be banned outright?
No.
So let's ban cannabis, let's ban alcohol, let's ban tobacco, let's ban vapes, because there might be a black market.
No,
that
my
people buy from.
argument is that I have no confidence in the black market not existing.
But it would
after
be.
we
What if it
start
was smaller?
regulating it? But I do believe that it's going to allow more
if it was
people.
half the size?
But it will mean that more people will be exposed to cannabis, and because it's going to be legalized, more people will be able to buy it more regularly.
OK, let's take some calls. Beatrice is in Glasgow. Does decriminalisation, Beatrice, make sense to you?
Yes, I believe so, because cannabis is a herb, is herbal, and it's useful, it's less toxic than alcohol. And I think the government are hypocrites because they're making more money from alcohol, and yet they are saying using cannabis is a criminal offense because they're not making money from it. And what I believe is that if they legalize it, you will be surprised that the young people, the less people will use it. But because it's seen as the criminal, they go for it on the black market.
OK, Beatrice.
But I think cannabis is a herb and it's very useful for us.
Arsenic is a naturally occurring substance. It's a poison. OK, just because something comes from nature, and everything comes from nature eventually, it doesn't necessarily mean it's beneficial. And we see young people, and I've met young people who have schizophrenia and paranoia as a result of cannabis use. And that is something that we would have to deal with, possibly in larger numbers, if it was decriminalised.
I believe.
OK.
Okay, I believe if they use it in moderation, like alcohol, it's not it will not damage your health.
OK.
It's because of abuse, just like alcohol, that damages your health.
OK.
But it does have more good than the bad.
Moderation is a difficult thing to regulate, isn't it? Because people find a way. I want to move on and take another call. Thank you for your call, Beatrice. Gwen's in West Yorkshire. Does decriminalisation make sense to you, Gwen?
No, it doesn't, and I'll tell you why, because it blights other people's lives. I live in an area that's beautiful, and it's in the sticks, and nobody smokes, and we don't have chimney pots even. And I have a next-door neighbour who smokes. Both of them smoke constantly. I have a lovely garden, and they've taken away my right to use my garden, because every time I go out, they're smoking pot. They smoke it from morning till night. They're coughing themselves silly. They've got 2 small children in the house, and you can't get away from the smell. Even when I take my little dog out for a walk, the smell of it is drifting up the road where I live. It's not just me that it offends. It offends a lot of the neighbours. But quite frankly, I think they're too frightened to say anything because they know, like you've just mentioned, people who smoke it on a constant basis like that become psychotic. And every time they don't have any, for some reason, they fall out and the big arguments and they hate each other. And I live next door to that, and that's cannabis.
Here's the thing, that's happening already. So that's happening and it hasn't been decriminalised. Maybe if it was decriminalised and it was legally available, we'd be able to tax it. And therefore, we would be able to use that money for positive things. What do you think of that?
I don't think they should be smoking it. It affects people's health. You're breathing in these fumes, and a lot of people and a lot of children have now got asthma. A lot of adults have got asthma, and we spend a lot of time discussing road traffic causing pollution. And I live next door to pollution. And since these neighbours have been here, my asthma has never been as bad as it has been.
Gwen.
Because I walk out the doors, I smoke it.
Gwen, what if your neighbours were drinking alcohol and smoking tobacco all day? How would that make you feel?
It wouldn't be much better because I've had neighbours that have drunk like that, but at least I don't smell the fumes.
And the tobacco?
And tobacco, I've had that, and it hasn't been as bad as the smell from whatever cannabis type they smoke. The smell is disgusting. I assure you,
You can't
it's
ban
not
bad
just me.
smells, can you?
But this is the thing, and I don't understand it, but I'm with Gwen on this, because when I walk through a city centre and I smell weed, it depresses me. It makes me upset. I don't know what it is. It just makes me feel like, maybe it's because I know it's illegal, because I know it's criminal. It makes me feel like there's a society out of control. And I don't know whether legalisation would be the answer to that, or would just mean it would be even more widespread and upset me even more.
Well, look, I'm sorry that bad smells depress you. Everyone's upset about bad smells when they smell them. It doesn't mean I want to ban people farting in public. Look, at the end of the day, all of the problems that we talk about with cannabis, it being smelly, it causing antisocial behaviour, it causing mental health issues, they already exist with alcohol in much greater numbers. So if you're making an argument, if that's the basis of your argument for banning cannabis, you should make the same argument for banning alcohol. You should make the same argument for banning tobacco.
We should be moving towards a society where
You want to ban alcohol and tobacco? Stella.
Ideally, not right now. There are all sorts of things that we used to do.
I thought you were fun.
We used to give our soldiers ecstasy. Would you be okay with now having British troops taking ecstasy, taking drugs, psychoactive drugs like that?
But we know that psychoactive drugs can actually have a hugely beneficial impact on things like depression,
but
on other mental health issues.
That is very different from people.
And our drug regulation is holding that back.
Very different from people being able to buy them themselves.
Let's take one more call. Paul's in Merseyside. What do you reckon, Paul? Would you like to see cannabis legalised or decriminalised?
I think it should be entirely decriminalised, yes, legalised, because it's a matter of individual freedom of choice. You know, do we have freedom of choice in this country, or do we have a Stalinist state that says what we can and do for ourselves?
Well, the reason that it tells us what to do, the reason that it tells us what to do is because it's trying to prevent harm to other people. People like Gwen that don't want to smell that, don't want to be next door to that. And we know that the effects go way beyond that into mental health and into other, it's a gateway drug as well to other drugs as well. I mean, that's why it's prevented at the moment.
Well, I'm sorry to repeating what's been said already, but alcohol is a far worse drug than cannabis. Those who want to, keep cannabis illegal, are they campaigning to make alcohol illegal? They generally aren't. Because, let's have a look at the different sorts of...
Because there is already a very well-established lobby group for alcohol companies, and they are making a lot of money, and that is the problem. I don't have a problem with people smoking cannabis who know how to control it. I have a problem with creating a new economic incentive which is going to be powerful, it's going to have lobbying interests, and it is going to entrench itself in our legal system and in our economy.
OK, we have to leave it there. Listen, thank you, guys. Thank you, Paul. And thanks for all your calls on this. But now...